Welcome back. This is Adan, Matt in the Morning, the show where we take your questions, reason together through the scriptures, and find out what the Bible really does say about the issues of our time, of our lives, or just trivial things that people have called in. So as you're reading through your time in the morning, or perhaps you've heard something from a friend, or as you're going throughout your day that doesn't sound quite right, this is the show to bring that up and we'll reason together. Whether it be something simple like, hey, where does the Bible talk about footprints of the... Remember that the footprints thing? There was only one set of footprints and I carried you and stuff. Yeah. Yes. I had a friend that searched for many hours to find that passage in the Bible, and it's not in there. Or where does the Bible say God helps those who help themselves? Yeah, also not in there. That's Benjamin Franklin. Yes. So whether it's something simple like that or something a little more obscure like the question that we have before us, the number is 928-777-3754, and when you hear the music playing, the sound means the phone lines are open. Alright, so the question here is, why are there two genealogies? Of Christ. And at first it seems that they contradict, because as we read Matthew, we have a genealogy of Christ, Matthew chapter 1, and we get down to verse 16, and Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. Okay. So we have Joseph's genealogy there, and his father was named Jacob.
Right.
Okay? If we go to Luke chapter 3, Luke chapter 3, verse starting in 23, it starts a genealogy, and we get down to starting 23. Now Jesus himself began his ministry excuse me, at about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, the son of Heli, the son of Mathat. Okay, so in Matthew it says Joseph's the son of Jacob.
Right.
In Luke it says that he's the son of Eli. All right. And the answer is this. The answer is that Matthew does in fact give us Joseph's lineage, who was the adopted father of Christ.
Right.
And
because
Luke,
Mary was a virgin.
Because Mary was a virgin. And Luke gives us the ancestry of Mary. So it says, as was supposed, the son of Joseph. Now, in Israeli law, or in Jewish law of the time, in, let's see, Numbers chapter 27, 1 through 8, and 36, 6 through 8, that's in the book of Numbers, when a daughter's the only heir, she can inherit her father's possessions and right if she marries within her own tribe. Okay? That's going to be important here in a moment, and something else that we get into. But because the lineage was coming down through Mary, the trouble is that we often read a Hebrew book in English, and of course this was written in Greek, but these are Hebrew customs.
Right.
And so when it talks about in Luke chapter 3, being as was supposed, the son of Joseph, the son of Heli, that was just a common mechanism that they used to show that Mary would have been under Heli as the daughter-in-law. Okay. For instance, say you go marry somebody, and then you guys have a kid.
Okay.
All right, and I'm giving her lineage down for the kid.
Okay.
And it always goes through the males. In fact, the bizarre circumstance is that we have a couple of females in the genealogy of Christ.
Right, which is unheard of.
Almost unheard of. Right, and so this is much more of a traditional lineage in the fact that it doesn't, even though it's going through Mary's line, it still lists Joseph, and that's why it says as was supposed. Gotcha. Joseph. Okay. Now that we've gone through that, and you can find some better history books or that type of stuff if you want to explore the cultural part of that more. But while we're on this, let's get into this subject. In Jeremiah, well, as we're talking about the lineage of Joseph in Matthew, in chapter 1, verse 11 and 12, we come across this character who is named Jeconiah. Here we go. Verse 11, Josiah begot Jeconiah and his brothers about the time they were carried away to Babylon. Mm-hmm. And after they were brought to Babylon, Jeconiah begot Shealtiel and yada, yada, yada. Okay? Alright, so why am I pointing this guy out? Well, if we go to Jeremiah chapter 22, Isaiah, Jeremiah, chapter 22, verse 24, As I live, says the Lord, though Jeconiah the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, were the signet on my right hand, yet I would pluck you off. And I will give you in the hand of those who seek your life, and into the hand of those whose face you fear, the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. I will cast you out, and your mother who bore you, into another country where you were not born. You shall die. All right? And in verse 30, Thus says the Lord, write this man down as childless, a man who shall not prosper in his days, for none of his descendants shall prosper, sitting on the throne of David and ruling any more in Judah.
Okay.
All right. So, Jeconiah and none of his descendants could be the rightful king of Israel.
Right.
All right. So, therefore, Christ, to be the king of Israel, to fulfill that prophecy of being a king and priest, could not have come from the line of Jeconiah.
Right.
He could not have come through Joseph's line.
Okay.
So if Mary and Joseph had been, if Joseph had actually been a son of Joseph, if Jesus had actually been a son of Joseph, Jesus could not have been the heir to the throne.
Right.
Now, he was the adopted son of Joseph. Because remember when King David is asking to build the temple, he tells Solomon, he tells David, I'm going to adopt your son Solomon.
Right.
Prophetic of someday Solomon adopting Solomon's line adopting his son, Christ. And remember, Jeconiah and later Joseph, the adopted father of Christ, came through the line of Solomon.
Right.
Okay. So, but if we go to the line of Mary, she doesn't come through Jeconiah and Solomon. She comes through Nathan.
Right.
David's other son.
Right.
Okay. So, coming through Nathan, Mary's son Jesus did not come from a cursed line.
Right.
So he was able to be the king of Israel.
So that didn't break that promise.
So it didn't. So in order to be Christ, he had to keep the promise and he had to keep the curse.
Right.
Because Christ said, "I didn't come to abolish the law. I came to fulfill the law." So he had to keep both the promise to Solomon that his descendants were always going to rule Israel.
Right.
And he also had to keep the curse that no one on Jeconiah's line would sit on the throne.
Right.
And so he did that by Solomon's descendant Joseph adopting the child of Mary, who was Nathan's descendant.
Gotcha.
And we also know that Mary's cousin Elizabeth
was the mother of John the Baptist.
fulfilling the Levitical priest line, because, of course, to be high priest,
you had to be from
the line of, right. Okay, so why 2 genealogies? I submit to you because of Matthew 1:11 and 12, Jeconiah.
That's interesting, and that also answers of why he got the kingship position from one side of the family and the priestly position from the other, and that explains why those two couldn't be reversed.
Right. He had to have been born of a line not from Jeconiah.
Right.
But he also had to have been from the line of Solomon.
Right.
But he couldn't have been born of the line of Solomon. Because he couldn't have been born of the line of Jeconiah,
Okay.
who was through Solomon.
Gotcha.
He would have had to have been one of Solomon's other sons. Okay.
Yes.
So he had to have been born not of the line of Jeconiah, but also come from the line of Solomon. And we know that Mary was of the line of Nathan, which was David's other son.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus wasn't cursed. And we also know that Joseph was of the line of Solomon, even though he's from Jeconiah. But since he wasn't the biological father of Christ,
Just the adopted.
right, he didn't carry the curse, and he kept the promise.
Excellent.
All right, make sense?
Yes.
We're good? Clear?
Yes.
All right, I know we went in a few circles around that one,
Exactly.
but all right. So 928-777-3754.